Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, which we'll be getting into right now. I am Melanie Moyer, and today I am joined by Beatriz Mourad.
Hello!
And Justin Cummings.
Hello!
Yeah. So like I said, we'll be discussing Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. I suppose there's a spoiler warning for this, but this movie's been out since 2003. But then again, Beatrice hasn't seen it until just now, so it's possible. So beware of that, I guess, if you haven't watched it and you're listening. You can find out more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes or on YouTube at overlyanimated.com/YouTube. Great. So, those of you who listened to our Prince of Egypt podcast will remember that Beatrice was very sad to learn that Prince of Egypt was not the film with the lady with the long hair, which is Sinbad. So we promised to return and do Sinbad, and here we are, and we might just end up doing all the DreamWorks. Justin has come up with quite the task force name for that.
We are the DreamWorks Dream Team.
There you go.
Hashtag it.
Hashtag.
Put it on the Twitter and the
TM.
We need our own icon. We need our own theme song. It's gonna be great.
This gets its own avatar on iTunes. Obviously, we're gonna make one just for DreamWorks.
Only if we actually do more than just the 2D DreamWorks. Only if because I'm scared if we start going past the 2D stuff because there's some good stuff, but then we have to do Madagascar 3.
I only saw the first Madagascar. No, that's a lie. I do think I saw the second one.
Wait, what's Boss Baby? I don't want to watch that again.
That's also a book.
No, okay, Boss Baby, I already covered. All right, so I already took the bullet for you guys.
We
don't have to do it.
We'll talk about the TV show.
Boss Baby was the theme of our Oscars party last year. We made all the decorations. Boss Baby winning all the ballots. It was Best Picture, Boss Baby, Best Actor, Boss Baby. It was great. I haven't seen it. It looks horrific. It was also a book. So there you go. There seems to be a trend right now of doing picture books into animated features.
Which means we need a good Stella Luna movie. The one we got was not worthy. Give me my good Stella Luna.
Yeah. Now Oh, and new Grinch with Adorable Grinch as opposed to Unadorable Grinch. So
DreamWorks Dream Team.
Fun stuff all around to be had there. But
it's Illumination.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is Illumination. They did Book of Life, didn't they?
No, Illumination is Despicable Me, Minions, and Secret Life of Pets. Oh, that's
right. I liked Secret Life of Pets. I didn't hate it.
And Sing was really good. Pretty good.
Sing was like a sneak in there hit. Not even a hit. It was just nobody saw it, but I really enjoyed it.
Very underrated.
Yeah. But the one we're talking about today is obviously Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, which came out in 2003, from DreamWorks. It is, I believe it was their second animated feature, or did Ants come out before this?
I think Ants was the first.
Ants was the very, very first. Then okay. Prince of Egypt. Then 2003. This was after Spirit.
Yes, because
this was the last.
Brad Pitt.
This was the last one before they switched to CG.
Yeah, because Brad Pitt was supposed to be in Spirit and then ended up being in this instead. So
so we got Matt Damon.
Yes, we should do Spirit too. I love Spirit. I enjoy Spirit a great deal. Also is now a TV show.
Spirit?
Don't even try to compare those two things.
20 years later, it's become a TV show. It's bizarre. But, yes. So Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas is based on, the famous character, who originated in, I believe 1001 Nights is where Sinbad originates from. Pirate, thief, kind of famous sort of, cultural, trickster type character. Here, reimagined, and we will get into this reimagining as taking place in a Greek-inspired world, or I guess it's actually meant to be straight up historical Greece, where he is a pirate who ends up being part of this, it's like a Damon and Pythagoras type story where his best friend takes his place in a trial after he's accused of stealing something that he didn't steal. For once, he didn't steal something. He was framed by the goddess of discord, Ares. His friend takes his place in exchange for him going to retrieve the book, and we go from there. There's a dog. It's great. So, round the table, just what is your history with this movie, if any, and what did you think looking back on it now, briefly? Let's start with Beatriz, because I want to know.
Well, my history is pretty short. I watched this movie for the first time a couple days ago, I think on Friday. And it was fine. I mean, look, let me just paint the picture for you. When it opened with long-haired goddess Eris, I gasped. I visibly gasped because when she opened her mouth, Michelle Pfeiffer's voice came out, and you need to understand, like, when I was a baby gay, I was like obsessed with Grease 2, and she was the star of Grease 2, and that's all I'm gonna go into. I'm just gonna say, like, Bruno Mars was right. She's white gold, and I was not prepared for Michelle Pfeiffer's voice with long-haired, beautiful Eris.
This is quite a movie for you.
You know, it opened strong right with her, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And like both the vocal performance, but also like the way that they created this character, making her very sensual, very, very, I guess very, what's that word? You know, not hijinks, but she likes to play around
chaotic,
with these
neutral.
humans. She's the chaos. She is chaotic, exactly, and I loved it. And yeah, so it started out strong, but then we got everything else. And everything else was fine, but it just seemed, I don't know, it just seemed a little bit, and I was just very confused in terms of just the backdrop of this. I didn't know where this took place. I was like, is this the Roman gods? Is it the Greek gods? Is this something else? Where are we? Like, throughout the movie, I would like Google like where they were, trying to figure out like what was happening. And it was fine. It just felt like a very safe adventure, like action adventure film, animated film of that time. Nothing too incredible in that sense, even though like the vocal performances were great and there were moments where animation was high quality. There were moments of it, but it didn't stand out in a way that I would have liked it to. I mean, there was like something in there. There was potential. I saw potential in this movie. It just wasn't met.
Mm-hmm. Justin, what were your thoughts?
So my history of this movie is a little longer. I think
longer
I watched
than last Friday.
I must have watched it at least once as a child. I feel like I had to because I owned the DVD. But for the life of me, all I could remember about this movie from a child was playing the games on the DVD menu.
Oh.
That was all I could remember about this game. God, see, that's how bad it is. So I had given this DVD to my little brother, and he was like, I don't want to watch this random old DreamWorks movie. I want to rewatch Paw Patrol and my DVDs of Ninja Turtles. And so I grabbed it from the shelf one day, and I was like, all right, I'm going to rewatch this. And I was like, wait, this was a kid's movie?
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I forget the difference. It's so weird to me watching movies back to back because PG has changed so much. Mm. It's why I liked watching Incredibles 2 recently, because I'm like, oh, we're actually getting a PG movie again. Like, I watched Sinbad and I'm like, oh, this is definitely PG. Or is it G?
It was rated. It's not telling me. I will find that for you in 1 second.
Because it feels like a PG movie. Like you said, our villain's actually like sensual and like very sensual. Like, I'm genuinely surprised they got away with what they did. And that honestly,
apparently that was the toned down version too.
That goes through all of old DreamWorks.
That came up a lot, was the fact that it was PG, that she was as sexy as she was.
it's a PG movie. Like, you compare that to something like Frozen. Frozen does not be PG. That's, to me, the rallying cry of who broke the rating system. But, like, I forget, like, what PG used to mean. Mm-hmm. And I was genuinely surprised by what was in this movie. But as far as the movie itself, it's better than I remember it being. But at the same time, I feel like nothing happens in this movie. Like, it sets itself up as this grand action adventure, and there's not much adventure. It's much more of just a, I don't know, character-driven story. Like, I don't know why, but maybe that's why I didn't like it so much as a kid, was there's not as many big set-piece moments as I thought there could be. Like, I feel like this movie happened because someone was walking down the hall with a Sinbad script, and someone was walking down the hall with a script for the Odyssey, and they dropped their scripts in the hallway and each picked up half of the other person's script. Because, like, the ads and stuff for this advertise, like, a Cyclops, and, like, the DVD set-top game has a Cyclops. There is, like, no Cyclops in this.
Yeah. There are other Grecian, there was a spin-off short where there was a Cyclops.
Exactly, and I always confuse that with the movie, and I'm like, where's the Cyclops? And I feel like this was trying to be the Odyssey, but wasn't the Odyssey. Like, it definitely feels like this weird mashup that didn't quite work, but worked well enough.
Mm-hmm. I will say, going off of this kind of childhood not remembering things, I will give it to Disney, DreamWorks, both of them really, because this is going to make sense. So I always thought that the Brad Pitt animated movie of that era was Treasure Planet. I always thought that Brad Pitt was voicing him, but in fact he's the one from Sinbad.
Yeah.
So for a long time I thought Treasure Planet was Sinbad also. So to add on to this kind of,
how many movies did you think were Sinbad?
She thought every movie was Sinbad until she finally saw Sinbad.
A lot of them. I thought a lot of them were. Well, I finally saw it. I finally figured it out. So that's what matters.
Have you kept Atlantis separated from Sinbad?
No, Atlantis is amazing, and that's actually one I remember. Okay, I would not confuse this with Atlantis. That would be an insult to Atlantis.
This is fascinating.
It would be, but water and early 2000s and. That seems to be all it takes for you to be fair. It was a pirate ship, but this was more like, the water in this was not like that great. The Atlantis water was really top notch. Yes, I know Atlantis has better water, but still, you seem to confuse any movie that has any water in it from this time period.
What are you talking about? I only confused
Prince of Egypt.
Prince of Egypt. Okay, Prince of Egypt, yeah, it had water, but I confused the
climactic
style. I'm
Okay.
saying the water was not a component with these things. Like, I was not thinking about water. I was thinking of, like, the main character. I don't know why. I don't know.
Do you know what? No, that's probably a longer list than I want, asking what movie didn't you think was Sinbad? So we're just going to leave it at that. It's interesting because, like, I don't think I saw this in theaters, but I, like, kind of wanted to when I was a kid, but I never saw it. But, like, I ended up seeing it later when I was a teenager for the first time, when I was, like, 13 or 14. I found it somewhere online and watched it, and I was like, oh, I didn't have a huge reaction to it because, like, for the life of me, like, before watching this again, I could not remember what happened in the middle of the movie. Like, it's bookended by, like, this great character stuff, but the middle of it is basically, like, it's watered down Odyssey. There's sirens and, like, water monsters and, Greek. She takes, like, weird constellations and sends them into the ocean, and it's terrifying. So I didn't have, like, a huge attachment to this, but it's kind of one of those things where I was like, oh, like, maybe it's better than I thought it, like, remember it being, and then, like, I go back and see it, and I'm like, no, it's exactly as I remember it. I don't, actively dislike it. I think it's fun, but, like, I feel like it's interesting for something so character-driven that it feels like there's not a lot of substance in the middle of the film. Like, it starts out so character-driven and it ends so character-driven, but the middle is just, like, this attempt to create, a mini Odyssey, a little action-adventure on the high seas, and it just kind of falls flat. But it's like, I guess, okay, like, if you're gonna make, action adventure on the high seas, like, you're gonna have to use the Odyssey. Like, even Pirates of the Caribbean uses the Odyssey as the basis for, like, all of its hijinks that happen in at least the first 3 movies. So it's like, you know, that at this point, I guess, is to be expected. But we will get into this takes place in Greece, by the way, in Syracuse and, like, various other parts of the Mediterranean. And, I'll have a lot to say about that in a bit. But yeah, so this is one of the films that Katzenberg brought to, DreamWorks when he left Disney, along with Ants and, what became Prince of Egypt. It's interesting because, you know, cultural, you know, character of Sinbad, and ultimately the way it ended up. And I guess maybe, I don't know, I guess we can talk about this now unless you have, like, burning thoughts about the animation. You want to get out first? This Linux OS?
I mean, I feel like it was just, I feel like in terms of animation, I don't want to be too harsh on it. I feel like this was just like, it was a growing period in animation. It was a moment where they were transitioning and trying new things, and some things aren't going to look great, but it's a necessary step for the good of animation in the long run. So I was like, some moments didn't look great, but I was more lenient with them, I guess, than I would if something like this came out today.
Yeah. For those of you who didn't watch the movie or didn't rewatch the movie, it, like, very, like, blatantly mixes hand animation with CGI. Sam would be seething right now, and probably is, and probably hated this movie. I don't know. I feel like she would have been a good one to get on here just for her rant against the CGI. Because basically all the human characters are hand-drawn, and then you've got these creatures that are just completely, like, unabashedly CGI in this 2D environment. So, you know, we were...
The sea serpent, was it a hydra? What specifically was it?
I could not tell you. There is a
Yeah, I think it was just a
cetus.
Just a sea serpent of some kind.
Okay, guys, I take back everything I just said.
What?
Because I very quickly looked up, because the biggest, like, the one 2D animation movie that I feel does the best job with, like, incorporating CG is Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh.
Because it's like, it's there, and it's like, you know, it's a different thing, but it's still done in such a subtle way that it's okay. And that came out just a year after. That came out in 2004. So you got no excuse, Sinbad. No excuse.
I mean, they do have a excuse. Their budget went to Brad Pitt.
Oh, yeah, that is the excuse. You're right.
Yeah.
See, like, why you shouldn't do that. Like, don't go for it. There are so many good voice actors. You don't have to get the big name. Just make it look pretty. Whatever.
Yeah, this
Honestly,
film, they lost $125 million on this. Well, not on this film alone, but this film contributed to that deficit in 2003. They almost went bankrupt.
Yeah, because
the page for Sinbad actually says it is unknown if DreamWorks will ever make another 2D animated movie.
Yeah.
Like, whoever wrote Sinbad's Wikipedia page is, like, very salty about this.
Yeah. Yeah. They always were gonna have, like, a big name person in there too. Like, originally it was Russell Crowe, and then it obviously ended up being Brad Pitt. So no matter what, they were throwing their budget at that. And even, like, Michelle Pfeiffer, like, you know,
See, but Michelle Pfeiffer brought it. She brought it. You know, Brad Pitt, it could have been Matt Damon, and I would have been like, oh, okay.
Just same person.
They already used Matt Damon.
They could have used him again as a discount. They're like, dude, we'll give you 2 movies, and then, like lower your price range, you know?
I don't think that's how acting works.
Doesn't matter.
But yeah, so
I really don't think that's how that works.
Animation is kind of in a flux at this point. And the thing is like, no, it doesn't really have an excuse, because back in 1991, Beauty and the Beast was pioneering this method and did it, you know, perfectly. So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, it's a little bit like, you know, and I don't know their lives, but it felt a little bit like the CGI animation was a little bit phoned in, or maybe they thought it was going to be cooler than it ended up being, or maybe it just hasn't aged well in our eyes. I don't know. But it was the first animated film to be done entirely on Linux. I don't know if anything else did that after the fact.
That's sad. They're like, ooh, we're gonna like break new ground, and then no one uses it after.
With a server within a server. Ooh. Fun stuff. But yeah, so the other thing, like we touched on a little bit already, is that this is a real legit PG movie. Like, this is a dark movie. It's not nearly as adult or dark as, Prince of Egypt. Yeah. But, you know, you almost see several characters get their heads cut off. Like, you watch them walk, it's like watching Ned Stark walk up there a little bit. I was thinking, looking back on it, I was like, I don't even think they devoted this much time to Ned Stark getting his head cut off. Then with, like, Proteus, when he walks up there and he kneels and he's, like, at the block, like, he's got his head on the block and they're raising the axe, and I'm like, holy, you know, geez, like, you know, obviously nobody gets their head cut off, but just, like, the imagery and how dark that entire sequence is. And then Sinbad goes and does the same thing. It's like, you've shown two animated characters walk up to, like, an executioner's block, basically, and, like, surrender mentally to, like, having their heads chopped off. Like, that's super gruesome. And then you've got Eris, who's, like, incredibly, like just this
amazing,
super sensual character. And, like, apparently, like, there was debate because she was too sexy at different points. And
Impossible.
Then they like tried to pull it back. They're like, no, this character is way too sexual for an anime movie. They pulled it back, and then like, oh my god, she's not as fun anymore. No, now that we've kind of like boxed her in. And they eventually ended up Here Now, which still seems like a super sexualized like character for an animated film. But she's great. Like, I think that she, and you know, we can get into it a little bit later if there's more to be said, but I do think that she was like the best part of this film. And I almost feel like she kind of got wasted on the rest of this lackluster film. I don't know.
Yeah, she was. Like, I'd love to see, like, a film just based on, like, the gods and her and the gods and, like, whatever, and doing something and playing with, like, humans and treating them horribly, but it's like, it's fine because we only care about the gods. Like, oh, please give me that.
Yeah. Yeah, she had a lot of, it's funny saying it about an animated film, but she had a lot of stage presence. Like, that character was just...
She did.
Like, the animators owned that character. Michelle Pfeiffer's voice acting was one of, like, the few parts of this film that were praised, because she just did such a good job with creating the visuals of who this person is. And it's, like, such an interesting character, because it's like, okay, you've got this like goddess of chaos who literally does not, like, she is the true chaotic neutral, because at the end when she loses, she just doesn't even really care all that much. She's like annoyed that it happened and annoyed that it's a little bit embarrassing, but it's like, well, all right, time to go screw up somebody else's life, I guess. That didn't work. And I just think she's fun. She's basically like kind of like their Hades, I feel like, a little bit. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, she's fun. Like, she's a fun villain. Like, I would love to see more movies with her.
Can Hades and Eris have a sitcom?
Yes.
That would be great.
Like, just like Odd Couple, just like them sharing a small one-bedroom flat in New York City. Like,
no, I would. It's great. That's the thing, is like, I would love it if you took Eris out of the movie and then just like, I don't know, gave her own movie or put her literally anywhere else. I would go see it. Not that the rest of this was deplorable or anything, but she was such a strong character and so well done, that it just, you know,
yeah,
it fell by the wayside. The other interesting thing in this film that I feel like, again, got a little bit wasted was, like, this character of Marina, who is, like, flies in the face of, like, basically everything Disney does when it designs its animated female heroines. You know, she wears pants the whole time. She's got short hair. Like, she's very non-traditionally beautiful in, like, the animated sense of what we've had up until this point. You know, and she's out there, you know, doing sailor things. She's, you know, secretly into sailing, and, you know, all that sort of like, I'm, you know, a little bit like the whole, like, I'm not like other girls stuff, because she does have that sort of witty banter with Sinbad that kind of turns into that very stereotypical, like, oh, she's not like other girls, TM. But I do wonder if part of her, like, power as a character kind of got diluted in the fact that she's ultimately tied to this love triangle.
Yeah.
Because she's introduced as the fiance of Proteus, and then she, for some reason, gets sent off with he thinks that's a good idea. He's like, oh, I'm going to send my fiance off with you to keep an eye. Or no, she sneaks on, doesn't she? She does it herself. I just watched this. You'd think I'd remember. That's how much the middle of this movie.
She goes to make sure that Sinbad does, like,
what he says he's going to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember if she did it herself or he.
No, she did. I think she went and did it herself, I think.
Yeah.
Or she told him she was going to do it. Like, it was out of her own.
Yeah. She makes the choice to do it herself. And then obviously she ends up falling for the bad boy because, of course. And, you know, there's the moment at the end where he's like, oh, like, you're in love with him. It's okay. You can go. And, you know, she runs off to go sail on the high seas with Sinbad, which honestly sounds like it would have been a fun sitcom as well. Like, Marina on this boat with a bunch of dudes just, you know.
That's where the movie should have started.
Yeah.
Okay, look, how much better would this movie have been had Sinbad not been the protagonist, but Marina been the protagonist?
This movie
and Eris would have been playing around with Marina. That would have been, like, chef's kiss perfect.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's right. Like, give me your money and I will redo this for you. With stick figures if I have to.
I just think, like, the film just suffered from being too derivative of other things. Mm-hmm. So in terms of, like, the love story, it's like, of course she's gonna fall for the bad boy. Like, it could have been interesting had she not been in love with Sinbad. Like, already, like, we were already expecting her to be in love with him. And, like, I don't know, like, the whole thing of, like, oh, when he first saw her, like, when they first, like,
oh, yeah,
met,
that came out of nowhere.
Because when they first met, I thought that she was secretly another pirate and that the Proteus or whatever was in trouble, like he was going to be scammed by her or something. Like, I don't know, like there was just potential to, like, I don't know, the way it was all set up and expressed to us, it just wasn't, it was the safest, most boring way to tell this story. So it just kind of, even though the characters themselves are really interesting, they didn't do anything with these characters. They didn't, I don't know why. And yeah, so, I mean, they didn't, I don't know. I always fight back love triangles, or if there is a love triangle, it's usually like not even a triangle. It's like missing the law. It's missing that line that
one person thinks they're in a love triangle.
Exactly.
But really,
one person thinks it, but really they're not. That's the type of love triangle I love.
I do love those.
You know, because then it's like, oh, like I have a chance. It's like, no, you don't. And it's, you know, like that would be great.
I love the ones where the third person thinks it's a love triangle. I'm trying to think of good examples of that. I can't off the top of my head, but that is like the greatest.
My Life as a Teenage Robot for an animated one.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, right. That was a reoccurring joke. Too. It's like, okay, somebody thinks that, yeah, like, I love, and that would have been great, right? Like, it would have been like, I would have loved them to, like, you know, establish already that maybe Sinbad and Marina have a relationship. Maybe she is a pirate. Maybe they've got a pirate relationship as pirates seem to have. And, you know, she's just totally scamming Proteus, and Proteus thinks he's part of this love triangle.
Or we could just, like, go into this, like, whole thing of, like, maybe, like, she, like, I don't know, like, I could have been really cool if I don't know, if maybe if she, I don't know, maybe, like, if Sim, like, I don't know. There's so much they could have done.
Made a really good point where, like, the end is where the movie should have began, right? Like, that totally is it. Like, all of this was backstory for, like, the part I really want to see. Like, I don't really get, you know, okay, great. The whole, you know, book of peace or whatever, fantastic. Tell me that in a prologue. Or, you know, dribble it throughout your story while you're out there, like, doing pirate things. Like, I think there's something to be said for the way that, like, we're in, you know, this is obviously older content than Sinbad, but like Game of Thrones, George R. R. Martin purposefully started the story after the story was over. Like, he wanted to know what kind of story would happen if you got to the end where the hero dies. And, like, what happens after that? 13 years after that, what does the world look like? What's the story there? Like, I think there's something to be said for people kind of looking at these big stories and say, like, you know, and just thinking, you know, maybe this isn't where the story starts, you know? Like, this movie could have done so much better if A, Marina was the main character, or at least B, we started it right where we finished it. Like, that's where all the interesting stuff's gonna come in, I can tell, and I'm never gonna get to see it.
Also, side note, did any of you think, and back to the love triangle thing, did any of you think that, like, Sinbad and, I don't know his name.
I know where you're going with this, and I have thoughts about it, so
okay,
finish.
do you, okay, when they first,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
okay, in the opening, I was like, they have great chemistry, these
Yes.
two. Like, I am down for this. But then, here's the thing, Marina and Sinbad have good chemistry, too, so it's not like it's like, oh, one's better than the other, but, like, I could have easily have it been, like, okay, let's just go full on,
Everyone
like,
get in this.
yeah, I was just like, maybe, like, make Marina the main character, make her not have a love interest,
She
or
has
have
a
her love
harem.
interest be Eris, have the goddess be the love interest, and then have these
That would
two,
be
like,
great.
having their own fun and innocence and, like, enjoying themselves. Like, I feel like their relationship is probably the healthiest relationship. Like, they both trust each other. It's like, cross that line, jump from bromance to romance. It's such a great jump. Like,
So-
why must we, like, be limited to bromance, is what I'm saying.
These two...
DreamWorks is
No, you go first.
DreamWorks is so good, unfortunately, at starting
line.
every movie of theirs with two guys that you're like, are they together? Now, Prince of Egypt, stepbrothers, so not quite as much, but even then, you're like,
After the fact, like, afterwards, when you're like, okay, I can ruminate on this a little bit, I still think that you guys...
But yeah, like, Prince of Egypt, El Dorado, Sinbad. I'm like,
oh my
El
God.
Dorado. I was about to ask, like,
Talk
is
about
El
a
Dorado
gay-
DreamWorks?
Talk about
Yes,
a gay
it is.
movie.
like you want to talk like, you know, co-opted by Tumblr. Like I'm pretty sure that like the day Tumblr first opened, the very first GIF shared was of El Dorado. Like
Well,
I'm
it was
95%
the
sure.
guitar guy, Miguel.
Yes.
Miguel on his guitar.
Like old DreamWorks had so many guys where I'm like, are we sure they're not together? /
Yeah.
why are they not? They're so adorable.
That's like a dissertation right there, like DreamWorks dudes. Because they focus a lot on male friendship, right? And it's not that guys can't have friends without there being like just, you know, platonic intimacy, but the way they code a lot of these guys, it comes across like really like,
Romantic.
are you guys sure you're not? Like, because these two, Proteus and Sinbad, are based on the, I don't even know what to call this, because I guess it's pseudo-historical, but it's more of like an allegory about Damon and Pythias, which are these two friends who exude, according to Pythagoras, the ideal friendship, quote unquote, because Pythias is like accused of a crime, and his buddy Damon says he will take his place as the sort of like collateral and take his place in punishment while Pythias goes off to, like, you know, prove himself innocent. If he doesn't return, then Damon will be killed. And obviously Pythias returns, even though he can't prove he was innocent, and the king is so moved by their beautiful friendship that he frees them both and lets them both live. Which, you know, sure, okay, friendship. That's what we'll call that.
I don't know. I just, maybe, like, I mean, I guess I have friends that I would, like, go to the ends of the earth for, but also, like,
not many.
but usually that place is taken by, like, some, either family, like blood, or it's taken by, like, romantic partner.
Well,
usually.
And it's interesting here because it's always, the fallback is always like, oh, they have a brotherly relationship, or oh, they have
Which
a
I
sisterly
guess,
relationship, which, like, yeah, in certain situations,
Yes.
like with Prince of Egypt, I totally see it. Like, they grew up as brothers,
Yes.
they're brothers.
Right, exactly.
That's what it is.
If you
These
grow
two,
up then together, then okay.
these two, it's a little bit different because it's literally like, in any other world, like, it would have, like, he's a prince and he's, like, super poor. Like, come on. Like, I've seen that story before. With different genders, obviously. But, you know, like, everything about their friendship is very, like, romantic, not in the sense of, like, romance, but, like, a romanticized story, right? Like, you've got this poor kid and this, like, highborn prince, and they're messing around, and they're best friends, and they have fun. But, and at that point it feels like, okay, Marina's there to remind you that, they're not, it's like the obligatory, like this happened in,
no homo.
What is it called? The Producers. If you've ever seen the musical The Producers, there's this character that is like very stereotypically flamboyantly gay who was put in for the purpose of making sure the audience understood that the two male main characters didn't have any sort of subtext, between them. Like they have said that is why that character is in there, basically to no homo the two main leads, which is like Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane. So Marina almost feels like that, right? Like we have to have an obligatory love triangle because otherwise this comes across as super gay. And it's, and it was fine. They can do their own thing. Marina can run off with Ares. It's a much better film.
Yeah.
But,
well,
I mean, that being said, like I do like the relationship between Marina and Sinbad. Like I don't completely, hate it. I think it's stereotypical. Right. I think it's derivative, but I think it's also pretty fun. And, they're okay.
There's a difference between derivative and archetype, right? There's a different, like, if you do it well, you're just following an archetype. Sure, it's not the most original thing, but it's like, but it's interesting. It's still fun. Derivative is like, okay, you're copying something and you're not providing, it's not interesting. You're not doing it well. At least for me, like I see derivative as like a negative connotation, whereas archetype is like, it's neutral.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
like,
so it's archetypical. It's stereotypical.
Right.
The movie itself is derivative, but the relationship there is archetypical, stereotypical. Nothing super new, but nothing bad. I mean, there's a reason we go back to these traditional tropes, right? Like, we kind of fall back on them. But now as we talk more, like, I'm just really sad that wasn't the movie we got.
We fanficked Sinbad, guys. We're sorry.
Sinbad. Something tells me the fanfic community for Sinbad isn't super large either, so...
Then you're welcome.
I can check that one.
Oh, good. We'll get some fact checking on that. So yes, dark film, subtly, like many of DreamWorks films, subtly gay film. One of the big issues, though, with this movie is the fact that it takes an Arabic character from an Arabic story and sets them in a westernized Grecian world. So this movie takes place in Syracuse, which is on the southern, like just below Italy, in Sicily. And you've got Greek mythology, the Greek gods, Greek characters, everyone except for like Sinbad and his crew. Because Sinbad, if you look at Sinbad's crew, like everyone on
very diverse.
Yeah, very diverse.
Like from all over the world.
They're clearly various people of color. They have said that Sinbad himself is meant to be an Arabic character, like he's meant to be a Middle Eastern character in this Grecian world, and that's part of why he's kind of an outcast. There was a Middle Eastern presence in Syracuse historically, so it checks out that way, but it's like they don't make the character in any way Middle Eastern.
Arab.
Yeah, he's not Arab at all. He's voiced by Brad Pitt, who's from Missouri. That's not great. They take this story that comes out of like Arabic tradition and throw it halfway across the world into Greece, and they got some flack for it and they never really responded to it. And one of the big problems with that is that this movie came out in 2003. Like,
gee, you wonder what happened in 2003.
Yeah, like timing wise, it comes across as very much like, oh, they were playing it super safe and westernized and totally appropriated this Arabic story without having to tell an actual Arabic story, because at that time was the like height of Islamophobia, which is not great. And like they've never been super held accountable for it. Like obviously several critics, Jack Shaheen, who is an Lebanese American, was kind of the biggest critic on it and talked the most about it, but no one really, like talked too much about it. They've never been like held accountable or directly questioned, and it's just been kind of this thing that nobody really talks about, that there's this, and it's not like Sinbad's a huge, big movie. It was a box office bomb, and I wouldn't even say it's got a cult following of any sort. But still, it's like you took one of, the great characters of Middle Eastern tradition and like set them in a completely westernized setting. Like, you went as far, like, I feel like they went as far east as they could go with still feeling safe. right?
Yeah.
By putting it in Greece.
Yeah. I mean, one of my biggest critiques about the movie is that it felt placeless. It felt like I didn't quite know what it was. So, and I didn't know. So as an Arab, I was very upset when I read the outline and saw that he was supposed to be one. It just, it's like, it's so annoying. It's so annoying. It's like, what is, like, there's just such beauty. Like, what is so wrong? And it's just, why? Like, I don't understand. And I just wish, I don't know. I don't know. Just this phobia is very frustrating. And just also to clarify, Arab and Islam aren't so, like, there are Christian Arabs or Jewish Arabs. Like, it's not what, they're not equal, right? Mm-hmm. They're not interchangeable terms. But even then, like, the fact that but given that they were just like region, we can't do something positive about the Middle East because we decided to invade it. So we can't. And it's like, it's very frustrating. And it made me very sad. Like, honestly, like, going into this, I thought it was like, I didn't think much of it because I was like, oh, this is some like Greek Roman thing. And they can't seem to decide which one they want to focus on. And the fact that he is there made me very sad because Brad Pitt, stay away. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that's gotten better because recently there was a film called what was it called? It was called Beirut, and guess who's the star? John frickin' Hamm. Oh. Beirut in Lebanon, the capital of Lebanon, and it stars a white guy. Like, why? Why?
It's like
literally the definition of white American upper middle class. John Hamm after Mad Men.
I was gonna say he's Mad Men, right?
Yep. So yep. I just don't think that this is like, oh well, now we're in a better place. We're not, and we're still seeing
look at Gods of Egypt.
Yeah, Gods of Egypt. I mean, just even like Prince of Egypt, which is subjectively a more praised film. DreamWorks still whitewashed the heck out of it. Like, it's all like, in terms of vocals, like, it's whitewashed, and it's just, and I say whitewashed in the sense of like, Caucasian, because not Caucasian, but like sometimes like there are also like very pale Arabs. So don't think it's like just racial. Yeah. It's more like ethnic.
It's social.
Right. So it's just very, I don't know.
Like Steve Martin is not Arabic in any
cannot be
an
Egyptian. Yes.
No, he's not Egyptian. It made me very upset finding this out, and it hurt because it still hurts. Like, not even with this movie, but we're not interchangeable, and stop watering us down, please. Thank you. Okay, I'm done.
When we produce the sequel, Beatriz will be playing the lead role of
the main character who will be swooned by Eris. I'll take it.
There you go.
You just want to be swooned by Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, I'm starting to see a theme.
No, I mean, hey, I was always like fascinated by Eris. Like, it's always been a thing. So don't think it's icing on the cake. The fact that it's Michelle Pfeiffer.
It's white gold on the cake.
Arab representation and some Michelle Pfeiffer on the side.
Exactly.
I think what surprises me is, like, anime is not exactly known for its accurate cultural portrayal, but I think Magi does a better job of portraying Sinbad than the Sinbad movie, keeping in mind that Sinbad in that show is white as heck with purple hair. He's still closer to actually being Sinbad. Like, they are at least in a desert, and there is culture of that region, and that show is at least set in the Middle East, even if all the characters are whitewashed, which is just a whole... Again, whitewashing an anime is a whole other
Middle
thing.
Eastern doesn't necessarily, like, skin color doesn't necessarily play a role in the...
But they're...
I'm just saying. But
they're
also,
the skin color of, like, anime white.
Anime, right.
Like, when I say anime white, that's, like, its own separate term of, like, they are just... It's like, I feel like it's a default palette for a lot of shows, and that's a whole nother issue. But, like, they just look anime is the best way to describe it. Like, super duper pale with weird colored hair.
Right, but it's still set in the Middle East versus this, which is
there's
just
at least a
completely
desert.
It.
Like,
this completely erases it. Right.
Yeah, this is set in southern Italy. Like,
which when the guy with the purple hair is closer to representing the actual thing, that's not good at all. That's like really, really bad. When you can't even beat the bar of anime representation.
And they had such a chance here too, right? Like you're making this complicated, because Sinbad as a animated hero in this film is, a fairly complex character. He's not 100% likable. Like he's he's got a lot of facets going on, and it's like I do think he is a really good animated character, and you had a chance to take this really good animated character who ends up ultimately being a hero and, giving representation to this, not even representation, like this character comes from Persian literature. Like this is literally culture appropriation, at its max. And I mean, like, I feel, looking at it as a white person and saying that, like, it's not really my place to get, super angry about it, but it does make me unhappy. And, it takes away not even just from the cultural, representation and, like, as, obviously Beatriz said, like, it hurts for people who, identify as that, but it also is not doing justice to this story and the literature and culture behind it.
It hurts it because it diminishes the depth, the nuance, the visual. Like it hurts. Every aspect of a story is hurt by watering down the culture. Mm-hmm. Hands down, always.
And it's almost one of those, people get mad either way. Like, for instance, recently when the new Miss Marvel was created, there were people like, oh, we're just being politically correct. How dare you take a title from a white woman, give it to a Pakistani woman? Like, how dare you, how dare you, how dare you? But then we take a story literally from Middle Eastern culture, one of like the seminal works of literature of that region. Like the first version of 1001 Nights was found in like 1300, like it dates back like the 13th century. Like literally one of the earliest works of modern literature, and we completely make it white. So it's like, well, what do you want? We can't take a character that was white or Caucasian, Western, American, whatever, and give that role to a Middle Eastern person, but we can take a story from that region and make it as white as we want. Like, it's like, well, then what do we do? Like, when do they get to be in movies? When do they get their stories told?
And what's sad is, like, for instance, this also reminds me of recently with The Incredibles 2, the short film that played before it, Bow, which is this beautiful story. Beautiful.
So amazing.
Takes place in Toronto. I was really excited about that.
It is super, super beautiful. And there were people who were like, what is this? I don't understand.
People were laughing in my theater, and it was like horrible. And
it was just, it's ridiculous. It's like, oh, well, this is what happens when you expect everything to be whitewashed. This is what happens when you only expect yourself on screen and you feel privileged enough and you demand that only you be seen represented. And that's what screams like privilege to me. Like it's so easy to understand, and yet people just refuse to. And it's not a good look, America. It's not a good look.
This, like, obviously I'm myself privileged as a white person, but even as a white person, I can say it is very exhausting trying to explain to other white people what privilege is and why they have it. It's so hard to like be like, to just explain the very basic concept of, no, like, maybe you shouldn't take a story from a different culture and make it about white people. Like, what if we didn't? Like, it's so hard to explain that without white people very much getting so, like, you're taking away my representation and, like, you want to replace me. And It's like, Jesus Christ, like, dude, like, and it's just, it's so, and, it's exhausting for me as a white person to talk to other white people. So I can't, imagine the exhaustion that people of color and people of other minorities feel trying to explain why they should, be represented on screen or be allowed to exist. So, the most I can say to that is I feel that, and,
And it's one of those, every time, very rarely that you do make a movie that has, say, a all-female cast or an all-minority cast or what have you, there's immediately the outcry of, oh, well, what if we made an all-white or an all-male cast? You'd be so mad. And it's like, well, here it is. Like, here's 10 of them. Like, here's 10 of them right here already that you made. Like, the entire backlog of cinema. Like...
Yeah, no, it's so hard to explain to people. And it's like, for me, the longest time, like, you know, like I had my moment of awareness where I was like, oh, wow, I'm super privileged. I see myself everywhere. I don't ever have to, you know, like as a woman, obviously there's issues there, but like as a white person and culturally, it's like, yes, I see myself everywhere. I'm validated in that regard. And it was like, wow, like I didn't notice this for so long because they've made it the norm. Like they've made it everything, you know, when, you know, you pick up a skin tone crayon, it's white. It's a white person's skin tone. Like that is the default. And like we're past this. Like even in 2003, we should have been past this. Like this should not be a thing that's still happening. And, you know, then you've got Gods of Egypt or whatever that movie was called with Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who's Danish, Swedish, something Scandinavian, playing an Egyptian god.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, like, I mean, it also, like, if you really do think about, like, the context of everything that was happening in 2003, it makes this whitewashing even more sinful, in a sense, because it's like, here you had an opportunity to make something positive that would, like, maybe kind of calm down this phobia people had toward the Middle East, toward Muslims, toward all this stuff. Here was something positive you could have done, and you decided to not do that because you didn't want to anger the very people who were, like, you know, invading a country. So
that being said, though, the only other mainstream attempt to do anything with 1001 Nights at that time period had been Aladdin.
Mm-hmm.
And that got some flack for not having the best portrayal of the region either. And so I'm genuinely asking, with tensions where they were in 2003, like I remember, I'm sorry, I'm a wrestling nerd, and at the time we had a character named Muhammad Hassan. Guess how well that character was portrayed?
No, but I mean, but that's the problem. It's like they were portrayed because everybody had that phobia. The problem was everybody had the phobia. It's like, and here's not, like, they probably were like, oh, we don't want to celebrate that, so let's just make it white. And they probably didn't think anything wrong of it.
What I'm saying is like, if they did make the movie set in the Middle East, do you think it may have actually been detrimental? Like I'm saying is, if they did it, I feel like there's a chance it wouldn't have been positive. I feel like it would have been even more detrimental, while this is more ignoring it. I feel like if they had actually done it, there's knowing where we were and where animation's portrayal was at the time, I feel like there's a good chance it may have been not so positive either, even though it is such a positive thing.
No, but here's the thing, though. It's like your protagonist is Arab, is the thing. So the only way I could see this go bad is if they legit made Sinbad the villain. But then that's a different story. That's a completely different story.
Aladdin was the protagonist, but the issue people had was the issue of the country.
The issue they had with Aladdin's a different thing. I don't like, it's not the same context, one. Right. Because one, Aladdin, they were basically amalgamating a lot of things. They were making not just Arab, but also taking things from India. They were doing a lot of different things with Aladdin. So Aladdin, and it wasn't set during this time period. The problems with Aladdin are problems Disney always has with cultural appropriation. The same thing, like, it's easier to compare Aladdin to Mulan in terms of what they do and in terms of representation than it is comparing Aladdin to Sinbad, because that's just an easier comparison. They were doing that. Their faults were just they're doing an amalgamation of a giant region of the world versus being nuanced and actually focusing and being true to a specific part. And Aladdin's a little complicated because technically isn't that originally from a Chinese story? So already it's like, it's a very big mesh of things. With Sinbad, it's more of, oh, we're just going to completely take it out. We're not even going to reference it. And then we're not even going to try. And by the way, like, in order to make it worse, because I don't know wrestling, but I'm assuming Muhammad guy, he wasn't the John Cena of wrestling. He wasn't the main character.
No, he was there for people to boo.
Oh. But that's basically what I mean, though. Like, the thing is, like, with Sinbad, like, to be the protagonist, you cannot make the protagonist the very person to boo. Like, that's not how a protagonist works in a story, I don't think. So in order for them to have done something bad in that sense, they would have legit not made this movie. They would have made a different movie. And it's not like asking them to actually not whitewash Arab culture, to not erase Arab culture is not the same thing as saying, oh, well, if they had done it, then they would have it would have been bad because they probably would have done something different and made it like a negative thing.
I think what would have fixed a lot of this is if Arab people made this film.
Yeah, that would have been nice. That would have been nice. Look, like it would have been great. But I mean, it's already hard for anyone to do that.
Yeah, no, I know.
If you're not of a certain
unfortunately,
class.
That's me asking a lot of society, right? To say, hey, how about you let, people of Arab descent make Arab stories? But that's, I think that would fix this, right? It would fix Justin's, because he's right, they messed up a lot in Aladdin, even though they were trying to be, representative, because they just, they were, and I don't say ignorant meaning in the sense that they were maliciously so, it's just it's white people trying to make a story that had nothing to do with them. And yeah, they got it wrong in parts. And if they did it with Sinbad, they probably would have done the same thing. And at the same time, no, you shouldn't just not try. And you shouldn't just completely erase the presence of Arab and various other Middle Eastern stories. And you shouldn't tell them, full of faults as a white person trying to understand something that, has nothing to do with you. And it's not to say okay, people can't tell stories about people outside their culture. You can do that. It's just, and this was a conversation I had with a friend once, because I was talking to her about it, and I was legitimately as a white person, if I want to tell a story that has a character who is black, or a character who is Indian, or a character who is Chinese, etc., what is my duty there? And should I be the one telling the story? And basically what she said to me, she was by all means include these characters, but don't try and be a voice for them, and don't try and tell stories that are uniquely meant to be told by people who experience these things. So, that's what I think white people and generally people in majority positions don't understand is you can tell these stories. You can very easily tell a story about Sinbad, and be a white person and make this movie, and make it not about you. That's possible. And you can make it in such a way that you're not being a voice for a group of people as a white person. But at the same time, we also need people to tell their own stories, have an Arabic person tell me Sinbad. I would love to see that movie, and I'm sure it exists out there in the world, and I've never gotten to see it because, it falls by the wayside because that's not what America cares about. So the moral here is don't do this. Don't do what Sinbad in 2003 did. Do better than what Aladdin did, but at least don't not try.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for instance, I've never had a super big problem with Aladdin because I was at least they're trying. Yeah, they didn't it's not perfect. And I'm going to criticize when it doesn't, because it still has problematic things in it. But at the same time, but thank you for trying. Thank you for at least not erasing it and thinking that these people don't exist. Because there's a difference between stealing and trying to do right by someone. And there's a big difference. And there's a reason why Aladdin is talked about, but Sinbad is forgotten. And I think one of the things is because Aladdin actually gives us a setting, something that is memorable, even if it's not 100% true to where it's meant to be. Yeah. So always try. I appreciate trying. Aim for the moon, you'll land on a star.
Aren't the stars farther away?
No, you aim for the stars. You do aim
land
for
on the moon. I don't know.
Something like that, though.
I mean, no, I love the metaphor.
Rocket yourself to space.
Yeah, just go to space. Go up. Go.
Don't think about
the International Space Station's nice. It's a cute little place.
You could land there. That could be fun.
First ever music video from space was made there. So, I mean, there you go. It's a great place.
Yeah. You're going to land somewhere. It's going to be great. And yeah, we're not saying white people don't make stories that are diverse. Please do. Just understand when you need to be quiet. I try to understand when I need to be quiet. It's an ongoing learning process because we're inundated with this since birth, unfortunately, in the United States. And as, recent events will tell you, we're still really working very hard on it. Some of us more than others. But yeah, so ultimately, where do you guys, we haven't done all the DreamWorks films, but if you were to rank this, whereabouts do you think you would put it?
All DreamWorks movies or 2D DreamWorks
2D.
movies?
We'll start with 2D. We'll keep
Okay.
it, yeah.
That's easier.
Yeah. Anyway.
Can you remind me what the 2D DreamWorks movies are?
El Dorado, Prince of Egypt,
Joseph,
and they
Sinbad, and Spirit.
Yeah.
I think those are the only 5.
Yeah. Joseph was direct to video, but we'll include that because it's got beautiful animation. Is it too early?
This has Eris.
Where would you rank Eris in the realm of...
Eris would win, but...
In the realm of your favorite animated villains, we'll go with villains, because I know this is...
No, I don't... See, the thing is, she can't beat, oh my god, I'm blanking on her name, but she's my favorite. She's literally on my screen, she's my screen, background.
Clearly.
What's her name? From Princess Mononoke. She's my favorite villain.
Oh, yes.
I still haven't seen Mononoke.
That I know who you're talking about.
I'm looking her up. Don't worry.
So she's a strong
Lady
second?
Eboshi. Lady Eboshi from Princess Mononoke is someone number 1. Princess Mononoke's Lady Eboshi is always number 1. Too many villains. I don't know. I don't really think about villains that
You seem strong about animated characters. Does she rank high in your animated female characters?
Oh, Helga from Atlantis.
God,
very
I hoped
high.
you were going to say
very high. Very high.
I really expected Hey Arnold.
I was like, she's not going to say Hey Arnold or Atlantis.
Atlantis is Helga. Very.
No, Helga was a great. Helga's fan. Yeah. I could say a lot about Helga.
There are certain characters where you're just like, yeah, okay. There's a reason why.
I had a massive childhood crush on Helga and just did not realize it until I was 15.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So there are a couple. She's definitely up there. But in terms of ranking the movie, I don't know. I haven't rewatched El Dorado in a while, but I remember enjoying the movie. So I feel like I would still put that as my number 1, even if I don't remember it.
Okay.
Because I remember enjoying it when I was a kid. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like. I guess Prince of Egypt I would rank higher than this because it was more ambitious, but I still it's not a perfect movie either. I liked it. It was okay. I'll put Prince of Egypt above this.
Okay.
Yes.
Justin, whereabouts would you put this?
I'm gonna put this right in the middle. I think my favorite of the 5 is Prince of Egypt. Then it's probably El Dorado because memes. Then this. Then Spirit, which I really like Spirit.
Spirit was very good. I agree.
But I think Eris just kind of pushes this above Spirit for me.
Eris saves this movie. I'm just going to say it right now.
She hard carries hard.
And then Joseph's at the bottom. It's not bad. It's just, it's straight to video. You
get what you pay for.
It's better than most, if not all of the Disney straight to video. I'll give it that. For being straight to video, it's pretty good. But
yeah, there wasn't too much of an animation dip in that one.
There really wasn't.
Yeah. But yeah, it's still straight to video. It is what it is.
It's better than, Aladdin 2, Aladdin 2 is actually
Prince of
good.
Thieves. Aladdin and
Prince
of
of
Mulan
Thieves
2 was
actually
really good. Mulan 2 was really cool.
I did like
It had Lucy Liu in it.
I'll take an extremely goofy movie.
I love it.
That's
I
great.
love that movie.
But most Disney sequels are not that
Don't
good. There's
worry, guys, we
3
get
exceptions.
to discuss Disney sequels in November 2019 when Frozen 2 storms the box office.
Woo woo!
I'm very curious to see how they're going to handle that because it is the first time they have ever done this.
Wait, but what about Ralph Breaks the Internet? That's
Technically not a... Oh, actually,
No,
that...
it's... Oh, well, no, I meant sequels to one of their musical princess movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's the first time they've done something like that, and
Well, theoretically speaking, all the princesses are in this one, so...
Yeah.
This is the real
And Vanellope
Frozen
is a
too.
princess.
It's not a musical, though.
No. It's true. It's not-
Hello, Owl City, when will I see you again?
Owl
You're telling
City's
me that
still
the Candy
trying to be
Crush
relevant.
song
Oh,
is
boy.
not... There's at least, like... Hey, if we count, like, arcade jingles, there's at least, like, 4 or 5 songs.
As a huge Broadway buff, I can tell you right now, musical sequels, historically, don't do great. We'll
Mamma
see
Mia 2. How well is
listen.
it doing?
How well is it doing, or objectively or in Mel's brain as just loving it? How is it doing? Because those are two very different answers. But yeah, Sinbad for me, it ranks. Prince of Egypt is my top DreamWorks film, followed pretty closely by Road to El Dorado. In 2D films. So Sinbad's probably at number 3, just because I think it's fun, and I do think Eris like saves a lot of this movie and definitely carries it. And I watched this movie if only just to like see her and like, you know, wish that Eris deserved better. Hashtag. She definitely should have. She should have been. We should have done better with this movie just to give her more life in the world. But it's interesting too if you look up like Sinbad on Tumblr or anything. Like the very first thing that will pop up will be like gift sets of Eris, because it's like the only thing anyone took away from this movie. Even you, Beatrice, who did not know this movie enough to know that it was not
Eris.
To know that it was not Prince of Egypt, was aware of Eris. That's all you knew about this movie. So, you know, that says something to how much work she does in kind of being, you know, the big drawing point of this film. So for her alone, I'll put it at number 3. But Prince of Egypt is tops for me. And, you know, who doesn't love Road to El Dorado? The music in that is great. Elton John, it's great stuff. But yeah, so that's Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. Agree, disagree? Hopefully you agree. I like being agreed with. Were you going to say something, Justin?
I was just going to say, I can kind of understand Marina, because after Fight Club, I also immediately fell in love with Brad Pitt, so I mean...
Yeah, but there was no, like, that, but, like, she just, like, that's the other thing, too, is, like, it was an arranged marriage, like, with her and Proteus. Like, she just gets off a boat, and it's like, oh, we're getting married. Like, I understand it was the way of things, but that's also, like, such a typical thing. I don't know.
I mean, I will also say, like, Marina's voiced by Catherine Zeta-Jones, so it's like, if you're, like, I get it, Brad Pitt make a lot of people swoony, but I mean, like, I could see Catherine Zeta-Jones being like, I'm better than you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go do other, like, I like to think that when this movie was over, she was using him to just get a boat. She steals his boat. She commits a mutiny. I'm just kidding. I do think they're great. I do like the character, the relationship of Sinbad and Marina. But yeah, so you can find out all the information on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on the Discord. One day I will join you as well. I keep forgetting.
Join us.
To text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. You can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Britt, aka Opal. Does anyone have, and thanks as always to our Patreon exclusive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Andy, and Hugh. Does anyone have anything they would like to shamelessly self-promote?
Yes. So, check out the Overly Animated YouTube channel. There are a lot of fun reacts that I've done for the Steven Universe episodes that have been coming out. I act ridiculous, but it's great. Also, my YouTube channel, the Be Real channel, B-R-E-E-L. I'm starting to do a lot more stuff, but I recently did a review of 8th Grade, which is the first film directed and written by Bo Burnham. And also Twitter at Beatriz Mourad. Check me out there.
Justin?
There's been a battle between me and Dylan of what Ralph Bakshi works I am allowed to write about, and I wanted to avoid controversy, so I did an article on Ralph Bakshi's most kid-friendly movie of all, The Butter Battle Book by Dr. Seuss. So if you've never seen the TV version of Butter Battle Book, go read the article, go watch it. It's like 22 minutes. Just do it. Seuss claimed it was his favorite of all of his works that were adapted. Like, it was the truest to his original. So, yeah, I found the one Bakshi article that will not get any... Actually, you know what? That might still get controversy, because mutually assured destruction. So, I mean, if you want Dr. Seuss and Cold War nonsense, go read that article.
Yikes. As always, I'm going to insist that you at least look at my book on Goodreads. You can be like Hugh and leave me a fantastic review. Thank you again, Hugh. You can find me, Melanie Moyer, on Goodreads, and you can find my book, The Rules of Me, on Goodreads, or on my Twitter, or on Amazon, or at Barnes & Noble, or anywhere books are sold. Where are books sold?
Get the book.
I don't know, Kroger?
Yeah, there might be. Probably not, but, one can dream. Great. Good stuff. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you next time. Au revoir.
Bye.
Bye.